The skills you are most proud of are probably not why you succeeded. The decisions you tell the story about at dinner did not make you. What made you is something you cannot repeat, cannot teach, and cannot control. And every time you explain your own success, you are building a version of yourself that will eventually get you destroyed. Think about the moment you knew you were good at this. Maybe it was a promotion that came faster than your colleagues. Maybe an investment that paid out when everyone else was nervous. Maybe a business decision you made on instinct that turned out right when the careful people were still drawing diagrams. You had reasons. You had a track record. You had a story that connected your choices to your outcomes in a way that made complete sense. And that story felt earned because you worked hard, because you were paying attention when others were not, because you made the call and it landed. But here is what you did not see. The 10 other people who made the same call and lost everything are not on your radar. They are not in the room you are in. They are not being asked for their opinion. They are gone. And their absence from your story is not proof that you were right. It is just proof that you survived. That is not a small distinction. It is the entire difference between skill and something else, and that something else has a name. It is called survivorship. The pattern where we learn only from the ones who made it through and build all our beliefs about what works from a sample that is missing everyone who failed doing exactly what you did. You are not seeing the full picture. You are seeing the winners. And the winners look like they won because they were good. Some of them were. Most of them were standing in the right place when the odds broke their way. The brain cannot tell the difference, so it writes a story, and the story stars you. In 1940, the Royal Air Force studied bombers returning from missions over occupied Europe. Engineers mapped every bullet hole on every plane that came back. The holes clustered on the wings, the tail, the fuselage. The recommendation that came back from most analysts was to reinforce those areas. Put the armor where the damage is. One statistician looked at the same data and said the opposite. The planes coming back with holes in the wings were fine. They came back. The planes getting shot in the engines were not in the data at all, because they did not come back. If you armor the wings, you're protecting the part that can survive being hit. The part that kills you is invisible because it is lying in a field in France. The RAF changed its approach and reinforced the engines. Not because of where the damage was, because of where the damage was not. Afterwards, the logic felt obvious. Before it, every experienced person in the room was looking at the wrong thing. They were not stupid. They were doing what every human brain does by design. They were learning from what they could see and drawing conclusions that felt rational. The conclusion was wrong because the evidence was incomplete, and the evidence was incomplete in a way that the evidence itself could not tell them. You do this every day. Your industry has survivors. The ones who built the thing, took the bet, quit the job, ignored the advice, and it worked. You follow their model. You read what they read. You talk the way they talk. You make the same moves. What you do not follow is the model of the person who did everything they did and it did not work. Because that person did not write the book. That person did not get the podcast. That person is somewhere you are not looking. Every mentor you have ever had survived. That is why they are your mentor. Survival is not the same as being right. Think about your career right now. You have a story about why you are where you are. It involves your choices, your judgment, your willingness to take risks others would not. Some of that is true, but run the honest version of the experiment. How many people started where you started with roughly the same abilities and ended up somewhere worse? If the answer is some, then your story has a gap in it. If the answer is a lot, then luck is doing more work in your narrative than you are comfortable admitting. You are not looking at them. You are looking at yourself. And the behavior this creates is not just a harmless story you tell at parties. It is a decision-making error you are running right now. You are doubling down on a strategy because it worked before. You are trusting your instincts because your instincts have a good track record. You are taking on risk you do not fully price because the last time you took on risk, it went fine. The thing you are not modeling is the scenario where the luck runs out and the skill was never there to begin with. A surgeon named Ignaz Semmelweis spent years in the 1840s trying to convince the medical establishment that doctors were killing their patients by going from autopsies to deliveries without washing their hands. He had data. The mortality rates in his ward dropped when he made hand-washing mandatory. The other wards had rates 5 times higher. The evidence was not ambiguous. The senior physicians did not change. They were experienced. They had delivered thousands of babies. They had survived the selection process that weeds out the ones who get bad outcomes too often. Their survival told them they were doing it right. The deaths they caused were invisible to them as a pattern because the deaths fit the expected range and did not disrupt the story they had built about their own competence. Semmelweis died in an asylum in 1865. The medical establishment came around roughly 20 years later. The people who were killing patients were not bad doctors. They were experienced, confident, selected for doctors who had learned only from the evidence that confirmed they were good. Your job right now probably rewards confidence. The people who got promoted before you were confident. Confidence reads as competence. You have learned that projecting certainty works, so you project it. What you are not tracking is the cost of that certainty on the decisions you are making wrong. The confident call that did not work out gets absorbed into the narrative as a learning experience. The confident call that destroyed someone else doing the same job at a different company is not in your data at all. You are optimizing for a version of success built on an incomplete sample, and the sample is incomplete in the direction that flatters you. Stop trying to extract the formula from your own wins. The principle is this. When you are evaluating your own track record, the question is never how often you were right. The question is how many people were doing exactly what you were doing and came out worse. If you cannot answer that, you do not have a track record, you have a story. What this asks you to give up is the thing you probably hold closest. The belief that your outcomes are mostly the product of your judgment. That feels like self-respect. It feels like taking ownership. But it is also a filter that makes you blind to the times when the world was kind to you in ways you did not earn. What it gives you instead is not humility as a performance. It is accuracy. The ability to price risk correctly. The ability to know when you are standing in a good position versus when you are actually good. Those are different things, and confusing them is how people walk confidently into the worst decisions of their lives. You did not build the machine that produced your outcomes all by yourself. That is hard to sit with, but the person who accepts it is the one who can actually improve. The person who cannot accept it keeps winning until the luck changes, and then has no idea what happened. The next video is about a different kind of invisible mistake. The experts who advised you on the biggest decisions of your life had something in common. None of them lost anything when they were wrong, and that changes everything about what their advice actually was.